So I'm really curious because you said, you had the experience with the big office and now you guys are more remote and working from home, but it sounds like
Mhm.
you guys still get together quite frequently to kind of strategize, or you did. I don't know if you still do. How are
Oh,
you viewing, um, the working environment of, there's now the conversation of complete remote work from home, online Zoom calls versus like, the traditional office setting or like a hybrid. Like it sounds like you've had an experience of almost, from the top down.
yeah.
How are you looking at that whole situation as you continue to build and operate a real estate company?
Yeah, still trying to figure it out. I mean, look, the Zoom calls are pretty efficient. They're pretty effective. I mean, you do need to have an agenda and stick to it. You can't just have a rambling 2 hour kind of Zoom call every Monday morning. I mean, you do need to have an agenda and stick to it. And you do need to have, and to be honest, that the kind of strategy stuff should really be only once a quarter. And then the regular meetings, if you can do it in a text message or on what's it called on Slack, better than just ringing somebody to chat. I'd rather just text someone saying send an electrician to so and so, and just get it done. So I try and minimize the talking,
Mhm.
ironically, but it is important to kind of have a plan in place where you have a strategy and you have goals, and you need to do that, and then you need to base your decisions afterwards need to be working towards those goals. And you need to wake up on a Monday morning and say, what do I need to do this week to work towards the pre-agreed goals? But, I think it can be a lot more efficient working from an office than being in an office and getting tapped on the shoulder all the time and being distracted with, stories or, hey, did you see the game last night? And that's all good for a little bit of rapport, but, you kind of waste a lot of time just talking to people or checking your YouTube or whatever. I prefer. I've never been a workaholic. Ironically, I've always been someone who's worked a pretty normal day, an 8 hour day, and then gone home and just enjoyed my evening with the kids or my buddies or whatever. So I've never been someone who just wants to stare at a computer screen all day long. So I try and make my time as efficient as possible. And I think COVID hasn't really impacted that negatively. I was working from home anyway,
Mhm.
and I've just kind of kept up with the habits I already had.
Yeah, I think that's good. So is there anything going forward you guys are looking at, both, in the work environment and the real estate stuff? Are you guys shifting plans at all? Are you guys going to be focusing more on the REO side? Like, how are you guys viewing the future? Or are you still, game planning because things are kind of still up in the air?
Well, like back in January, I felt like I was in a sports car just driving down a road on a sunny day. And now
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a Hyundai driving through the fog and the rain. I mean, I'm going very slowly. It's
Hmm.
like really slowly. I'm doing like a deal every now and again rather than multiple deals
Hmm.
per week. So I've slowed it down a lot. I mean, part of me wants to keep my powder. Back in March and April, I was kind of knee-jerk reaction, like I'm pulling out. I'm not buying anything. Got to just hoard all my cash, keep my powder dry. There's going to be a huge crash, and I'm going to make out like a bandit later in the year. But thanks to those $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there, that's not going to happen now. Whereas now I'm kind of deciding, well, okay, I'm just going to get back in the market again a little bit more carefully, because this adjustment might not be until the end of next year, and I'm not going to sit in my hands for a whole year waiting for something to happen. So it's more about deciding what proportion of my assets I want to invest between now and the inevitable downturn, and just kind of proceed with caution. And to be honest, my business partners had slightly different ideas as well. They were much more gung-ho than I was. So they've kind of gone ahead and bought a bunch of properties themselves, high price properties. They've started promoting kind of pre-construction properties on behalf of other developers, which wasn't really my thing at all. And I just kind of set up a website and did a bunch of reports and set up a new podcast and just kind of dipped my toe in the market. And I've kind of specialized in buying, I've got a few houses in foreclosures. I've got a couple off market, just ones that need very light work, ones that I can be in and out of in kind of 60 days, 70 days. So I've done a few of those, but I'm mostly keeping my main aggressive plays clear until I see what way this is panning out. And in the meantime, I'm just kind of dipping my toe in the market. I've stepped up lending, ironically, to other flippers because I might be reluctant to kind of flip a property because a 10% drop can wipe out your entire profit margin and then some. But if I'm lending to somebody like 60% LTV and getting a nice double-digit interest rate for it, I'm kind of okay doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I've done some loan notes and I bought a couple of rentals because I was able to get them cheap and renovate them cheap. But I'm less active now than I was kind of 8 months ago. I know a lot of people are more active. Some lenders are super active. A lot of your agent buddies are super active because real estate, if you're representing sellers, this is a great time to be in the game. But I've done well enough the last 6 years that I could afford the luxury of slowing down from fifth gear to second gear. And I've kind of done that. I'm not slowing down to a stop. I want to keep going. I want to keep making sure there's more money coming in than going out. But I think the real opportunities for kind of wealth accumulation will be further down the line. I mean, that you can keep doing stuff to generate income, for the next few quarters. But I think the wealth generating possibilities are further down the line, just as the people that were able to buy real estate in 2010, 11, 12, 13 and hold it, they generated real wealth. That was proper wealth. I think you're going to have something along those lines, but it might not be for another year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years. It's kind of hard to tell when every single asset price is going up simultaneously. It's a very unusual place.
Yeah. I mean, we had the same reaction as you very early on when COVID hit, kind of, I don't want to say pull the ripcord, but, very heavily take a step back from anything we were doing. And I mean, transactions and deals just kind of fell by the wayside, and we just focused on managing our own portfolio and managing tenants. Cause at the time everybody thought, unemployment was going to go crazy. Nobody was going to be able to pay rent. I mean, we did scenarios where we had 30, 40, 50% of income going away, and it wasn't nearly that bad so far, knock on wood. So yeah, it was interesting to hear that. But what was the conversation like between you and your partners then? Because if you guys were viewing it very differently, what were they seeing? What were they thinking? Like, what was some of their reasoning that they were like, hey, this isn't that big of a deal, or, we're still going, or we're going to this pre-development thing? Like, what were those conversations like?
Yeah, it was a difficult conversation because these guys that I've been in business with for like 10 years, and we had pretty different opinions on what to do with the business and what to do with our money for the first time in a long time. I mean, you always have your differences, but you hammer out a strategy that everybody signs up to. But back in March, April, I guess the distress in our market and everybody was getting panicky. I mean, that kind of consensus just wasn't there. I mean, I guess if we had, it just wasn't there. And maybe part of it was just been together a long time, and part of me probably just wanted to try something different anyway. There's a little bit of that too, to be honest with you, Chris. But it was a tough decision. They wanted to continue doing stuff with the company's money, doing transactions that I didn't really want my money being part of. I said, I really want to stop those types of transactions for a while. I want to hold back. I want to try and cash in a little bit and see what the lie of the land is. And they were, I mean, and in fairness, they were in somewhat vindicated because there has been, you have been able to make money for the last 5-6 months, and it has, anybody that slammed on the brakes has lost money compared to people that kept their foot on the gas. But I still don't regret it because, some of these people still have their foot on the gas, and that they might have that roadrunner moment in December. I mean, I just don't know, but it was a difficult conversation, but in the end, we just agreed. Say, okay, well, let's do this equitably. Let's just cash out. You form an LLC to do whatever you want to do with your cash. We'll form an LLC to do what we want to do with our cash, and the different properties that we own that are still being renovated and sold, we'll get those renovated and sold, and the ones that we own as rentals together, because we own quite a few rentals together, we just keep those. We just there's no rush with that. They're all doing fine, and but it's it's not easy doing that stuff. You need to have a pretty thick skin being a business owner.